Here's my BMW E39, but it has an issue that even the pre-owner who had repaired multiple E39s couldn't get fixed. It won't start. So in this video, we will bring this puppy back to life and make it even better with one simple solution. But before we start disassembling the engine, I'm gonna have to show you something. I'm glad that I didn't drive the car before because this is really dangerous. The spring is broken. Another thing we have to fix. But what am I going to do about the engine? A car needs fuel, spark, air and compression. First we're going to test the fuel supply. It turns out that it has almost no pressure in the system. So I wanted to see if the fuel pump even pumps some fuel. Well, it does. But I have an idea why the car won't run. We are gonna take out the fuel pump and see whether the filter in front of it is dirty or not. Well, the fuel pump works and it's not dirty. The last thing I wanted to test are the injectors. All of them work, except for the second one, so I tested it with an external battery. And it seems like it also works. My guess is that the fuel supply is fine. But how about spark? Let's remove the coils and spark plugs and test them. Visually the spark plugs are okay, although the engine got a bit too much fuel. Nevertheless, I tested them. They work, but it's some no-name stuff, so I bought some from Bosch. Well, I don't think that was the issue. Unfortunately, I don't have a compression tester, so I visually inspected the timing chains and tested something else. These gaskets are like plastic, but the engine seems fine. Like it has no visible scratches on the camshafts, and I don't think it has timing issues. I think the engine has no compression. A guy on YouTube had the same issue like me and he poured a little bit of oil down the cylinders, and I'm going to try that too. So now I'm going to reinstall the valve cover, pour a little bit of oil down the cylinders and see if this puppy wants to start. Yes. Slam it on there. I suspect that the oil from the cylinder walls is getting washed off because of the short run phases. The M52 engine suffers from that, especially when it's cold outside. I really think we are onto something. After squirting in some oil, we need to spread the oil onto the cylinder walls. Then put in the spark plugs and coils and start it again without fuel supply. Now it should be ready to start normally. But it won't. So I bought a compression tester. Here are the results. All of the cylinders are roughly about 10 to 11 bars. Seems to be fine, right? Well, now just the air supply is left. In all hopelessness, we are going to swap the intake boot. But in the process of that, I damaged the other one. Great. So we are starting it again, but before we are going to replace the damaged strut. Therefore the wheel has to come off. After that, we need to remove the bolt which holds in the strut. Now remove the stabilizer link. And now the 3 bolts on top. I bought something. Now I'm installing everything in reverse order. Done. Please start the engine. And it works. I don't know why, but it works. Keep in mind this engine probably didn't run properly in the last 6 years. But then this happened. The car is starting to shake and there's a little bit steam coming out of there. So I think something's wrong. Engine control light is coming on. Can you even see that the engine is a little bit rumbling? Okay, well, the only code we get is the airflow sensor. Well, I think the engine is fine. Or is it? Well, nope, it isn't. It sounds like there is no fuel pressure or a big vacuum leak. Since we had some fuel pressure, we are going to swap the intake from the other engine first. Since the other engine is from an E46, we need to swap some vacuum lines. I also made sure that the intake was clean before installing it. I also found something else. So I swapped the camshaft sensor. And now we are swapping the fuel pressure regulator. Remember the broken intake boot? Now we are replacing that one with a new one. So now we're trying to start a car. I really hope the car starts now. No leaks. Perfect. And it exactly ran like before, so that also wasn't the issue. Since the fuel pump was pretty loud, I also replaced it again. But now the engine should start, right? Well, no it won't. Remember the injector which wasn't working? I figured out that sometimes the first one wouldn't work and sometimes the second one. Every start another injector wouldn't work, so I suspect the ECU is broken. I've bought one from eBay with the immobilizer and ignition lock, so let's replace it. And again, it won't start. Since the engine won't run on this car, I have an idea. And it's a little bit different than you might think. Okay, at first I'm going to remove the coolant. Oh yeah. Oh, no. Now I'm going to these connectors and disconnect everything from the engine. So everything is disconnected from here. Next I'm going to remove the compressor. That's so much easier than on the E46. Okay, fine. The compressor should be off. On the E46 it's pretty hard to get that off the gearbox, but here it's such an easy job. Okay, now comes my most hated clip. It's possible to grab it from here. No way. It's much better than on the E46. Trust me, on the E46, removing the gear linkage is a I've finally fished it out of here. Wow, that was hard. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, 6. Perfect. Next step is removing the steering linkage. Yeah, come on, go. Yeah, now it's off. Out of here. Now I'm taking off the intake. And now it was time to remove the engine. And here is the big broken boy. Well, if you have a BMW, you make bad decisions. Trust me. Guys, I've bought another engine. This is an engine out of a BMW E39 323i, so it has a little bit more power. So now I'm taking the gearbox from the old engine. One major thing I have to swap over is the oil pan. Before dropping in the new engine, we have to replace the rusty brake lines in the front. And now the time has come. Now we are installing the prop shaft. I do have a new viscous fan clutch, so let's install it. Now we are putting in all of the fluids. And as you can see, I'm not the best at aiming. Now install the new ECU. Before starting it, I wanted to build up the oil pressure. And now we're trying to start it, and you won't believe how nervous I was. I've just installed the old ECU. We're going to test it just once. Okay. It works! And finally, after all this work, it runs. Oh my gosh. But I need to install the new ECU because that's the wrong software. Guys, I have a little bit of a problem with the exhaust. Because I have an engine from an E46 and I do have catalytic converters from an E46. And the problem with that is the headers are different on the E46 and on the E39. But luckily I have the old headers with the catalytic converters from the E39 520i. After all of this work, the BMW E39 finally runs reliably.
Get up on your feet, this is a shakedown.